The Pledge of Allegiance carries on.
It's gonna be important for you. You're kind of a key player.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the next item is a continuation of the public hearing on the 2025 budget. We have a new well,
Yes,
well, it's modified.
It's updated.
Yeah, it's just updated. By the magic of our bookkeeper. He has us under the tax cap by $298.
Yep.
This would include the increase for the fire rescue budget. Lois, can you bring us through those few little, where you made the changes? Just quickly, we don't have to go into big detail.
I added a little bit more fund balance. I went over more revenue accounts and tweaked them a little bit. The highway, I added a little bit more fund balance from theirs. I was able to take a little bit more fund balance from the B fund to give revenue to the highway. We're allowed to do that. So I just tweaked a few numbers that you see that are highlighted. If you want me to go through line item by line item, I will.
No,
I just
unless you guys
tweaked
wanted to.
some numbers.
Fine.
I added more state aid mortgage, the mortgage tax. I had it a little low at 75,000 for the year, but I think it seems to be increasing again.
Mhm,
So I added there as revenue.
mhm.
So I was able to offset the fire contract with the changes in the A and the B and the DB funds.
Mhm.
So I just looked a little bit more carefully at revenue and expenses as well, but adding a little bit of the fund balance.
Mhm.
So in a nutshell.
So at this point in time, any questions?
Well, yeah, is there any questions about the budget?
Yeah, first off, I want to hats off to Lois for what she did to update from the last week. It still leaves us with the fact that, well, we know what happens with tax rate changes. The tax rate now for those outside the village is going down. So their taxes are going to go down in 2025 by 1%. While the taxes for those of us in the village are going to go up 17%. Let me repeat that.
The tax rate for the
Our taxes,
town, the tax rate in 2025 for the town outside is 1.979.
right?
The tax rate in 2024 for the town outside was 1.999.
So that's a 1% drop.
It's a not 1%.
That's a 1% drop.
1.9 to 1.99?
1.999 to 1.979 is a 1% drop. Conversely, the village's tax rate, which goes from 0.918 to 1.075, is a 17% increase.
Well, I'm sure moving dollars from, go ahead, Lois.
I don't know, Tim and I spoke this morning, and this is where I will admit my expertise doesn't exist. But I think because we are moving the funds over into the A fund and the fire, now it encompasses the village as well instead of just
No,
the outside of the village.
okay, so the fire expense is in the DB fund.
Right,
It's separate from the A fund.
Right.
correct.
And,
You're
and for
correct
those,
on that.
and for those who are outside the village, That's a separate line on their taxes.
Right,
So that's.
that is, that's true.
All right.
You are, yes, you are.
What's
correct.
happening is, if you go to the first page,
Mhm.
comparing 2024 to 2025, the A fund tax levy increased from 1.133 million to 1.34 million. That's an 18% increase. While the DB fund dropped from 1.1 million down to 0.898 million, which is an 18% reduction. All right, and the way it works is the village residence tax from the town is all based on the A fund levy,
Correct.
while those outside the village pay a portion of the A fund levy as well as all of the DB fund. So because of this disparate change in the levies between A and DB between last year and this year, the weight of the burden for the tax increase has shifted dramatically to the village residents. And that's why the village tax rate for town property taxes is going up 17%, while the taxes for those outside the village are going to drop this year. And that's really stated on the third page, where Lois has 6 examples. You can see on the second line of each of those where let's just go through one for one page. The top left is a village home assessed at $249,000. And our taxes last year were $220.98. It's now going to be $268.24. That's a 17% increase. If you go to the next example, that's a townhome valued at $2.1 million. And their town taxes are going to go from $4,290.62 down to $4,247.15. It's a 1% drop. And on this page, you have 3 examples in the village and 3 examples in the town. If you go through the calculation, you'll find that all 3 of the village examples, the taxes go up 17%. And all 3 of the town examples, the taxes go down by 1%.
Now, maybe because of us being able to move money from the B fund to the highway, to reduce the tax levy on the highway, maybe that's where it happens, because the highway is right town outside.
Right.
Right.
That may be the cause of the village portion going up, because we're using money from our B fund
Yeah, if you go
to
through the
give revenue to the highway
Right.
budget,
yeah, if you go
just so
through-
we can stay under our tax cap.
if you go through the detail, there's a lot of reasons in the A fund why the levy went up $200,000. And some of the reasons why the levy went down in the DB fund. But the bottom line is, only if there was additional benefits that the village residents were getting from the town that they weren't getting before, and the town residents were getting, would it make sense to have such a dramatic increase? And the other thing I want to tell you is, this isn't the first year it's happened. Last year, the taxes for those, the town tax for those village residents went up 6%, while it only went up 1% for those outside of it. And I went to the last 6 years, and 5 of the 6 years, the village residents ended up paying a higher percent tax increase than the town, than those outside of it. So I just don't understand why it is that the village residents should continue to pay a disproportionate portion of the tax. And by the way, it continues over time. As this happens every year, it gets worse. And so I'll tell you that 6 years ago, I looked at the tax portal, and I compared my taxes starting in 2019 to a Murphy, somebody, Christopher M or something like that. With the same asset value of the property as mine, so it's apples to apples comparison. And 6 years ago, I was paying 39% of that person's taxes. And now I'm paying 66%. In other words, as a village residence, the delta between being in the village versus being outside the village has shrunk by 70%. And this is all while the village residents are still paying their own taxes every year. So I just don't understand why the village residents will continue to pay a higher percent tax increase for the town property tax. And by the way, as I said before I got here, Gary, the Lois's numbers are right. Okay, she's taking the inputs you guys have given and put them in the formulas that she took me through last year. And there's not a problem with the calculations. It's just what you've done to decrement the expenses in the DB fund and increase the expenses in the A fund. And that disproportionately affects the village residents more than the town residents.
And how do you overcome that? I mean,
That's to you, when you go to the budget, you gotta figure out, what's the fair thing to be doing.
well, the things that we put in went over the
I
other.
don't have an answer.
Oh, I don't really have an answer either, but I know we went over a couple of the things the other day
Yeah,
where we had to do in the, I guess, the DB fund.
no, one thing was in the A fund, we have a line called highway equipment, which last year was 0,
Right,
and this year's $120,000. And you both told me it's because of some new tanks you need to buy.
right.
Right.
All right. As I said to you, I don't know the details behind it. Is there a better way to budget that? I don't know, but the fact is, yeah, you need it. Okay.
Right.
But you did things in the DB fund to increase the fund balance there. More than you did last year. You did things to increase the interfund transfers last year versus last year into the DB fund, which helped the overall levy for DB. But you didn't do those things in the A fund.
Because we can't,
Okay, so I don't know the details of that.
Right.
Because you can't in the DB fund, right?
right, you can't move money from the B fund to the A fund.
All right. But your medical expense, medical insurance costs went up 22% in the A fund, but it dropped 15% in the DB fund. And I don't understand it just on that either, but I'm just saying, trying to do some apples and apples. I don't understand what you're doing, but you certainly are weighting the expenses towards the A fund.
Because there are more employees covered under the A fund. And some of the highway gentlemen in the crew do not need the health insurance benefits.
No, that's good. Isn't it?
Yeah, that probably makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just overall, it's a big difference.
The only thing I could see that is an anomaly between the two locations is there's commercial properties within the town or within the village. I don't know if that plays on any calculation or assessment.
I don't know if it plays an assessment.
Like, what about
Not
assessed
any-
value, like going up dramatically in the village? Does that play into?
The assessed value went up in
Like
both,
it keeps, yeah.
yeah.
It's about the same in both. right?
Is
Yeah.
it proportional in both, or is it higher in the village? Like the proportion of, because it's been staggering to see how the price of homes in the village in the past couple of years.
Yeah, the asset values in the
Does that
village
have
is
anything-
1/6 that overall.
Now, Tim, if you went back 6 years and you found this I don't want to say a formula because it's not a formula, but you found this disparity.
Yeah.
Going back 6 years. I'm assuming it goes back even further because we do the calculations the same way every single year.
Mhm.
So I think in order to get a clear clarification of your questions, I think we have to go outside of this group and ask somebody like a state auditor or the state controller's offices, how does these things creep to certain territories within a town? What seems to be disproportionately, but is it being done under the correct formulas? And if it is done under the correct formulas, what makes it seem, or in mathematical computation, show that it is percentage-wise, a little bit disproportional.
Right.
So we need to get an answer that way.
Okay,
I don't think it is the way we appropriate stuff, because there's only certain things that we can appropriate to the village because of the way it's carved out. Highway obviously is just our highway. There's no other things in the village that fall under recreation falls under the village.
Right.
What else falls under the village?
Can
There
our,
are some improvements we want to do up at Park and Pool that Danielle.
But recreation falls to the village.
Yes,
Right,
yes, it does.
The running of the town itself falls to the village because the village falls inside the town.
no, wait,
So we share some of those expenses. Is that not correct?
A fund encompasses the whole.
Geographic territory.
Yes, which would be the park and pool.
can we get a clarification from the auditor that's here? Can he,
I can try, he will probably ask,
He'll probably refer it to
yeah.
his supervisor.
Mhm.
But I think we need to get a
Why,
professional,
when you do this formula, does it seem to
Yeah.
affect the village?
because we're taking a formula that they give to
right,
town.
of course,
Yes.
right.
and say,
Right.
plug in the numbers, and this is what the numbers come out, get your rate. But Tim's not concerned so much about the rate as he is the percentage increase when the calculations are made upon the properties. And whether it's a $200,000 property or a 2 million property, proportionally, it's still come out with a percentage that seems to be an increase. So we need to get an answer from the comptroller's office or our own accounting company that sometimes comes in and audits us. Because if these were miscalculations, I would assume if it's been going on 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, they would have picked it up and
Right.
said,
I don't think it's a miscalculation. By the way, I checked with the town of Northeast and the village of Norton to make sure they're doing the exact same thing from a formula point of view.
right,
So there's not a problem with the formula. There's not a problem with the calculation that's being done.
so what's the problem?
The problem is the way that you are allocating the changes from one year to the next of the budget items within the A fund and with the DB fund. And all I'm telling you is the way that you get to,
Control that,
the way that you get to the A fund increasing an additional $200,000 from one year to the other, and that you get the DB fund to decrease its total asset value by, not asset value, levy value by 200,000. This changes you're making on a line item by line item. That's where it's at.
no, you
It's just the expense, right,
cannot,
the expenses.
you
just go
cannot
up.
move B to A.
Yeah.
You can, the highway can use revenue from the B fund, but the B fund cannot give money to the A
Yeah, I
fund,
think
But the A fund is defined as what?
the whole
The
town,
entire town.
town
The
line,
DB is defined as what?
outside the village.
That's a carve out.
Highway.
So
outside
between the A
village.
fund and the D fund, outside the village is the
Is
DB
the
fund.
highway, D is highway, B is outside the village, so that's how highway gets DB.
So there really isn't a line that says village.
No,
It's the difference in those allocations to those designated defined territories.
Yeah, what happens is she totals up the A fund levy, and then to the village, she allocates the ratio of the asset values of property in the village divided by the total asset value.
Correct.
And that's how much the village owns.
Correct.
Of the A fund.
But our A fund expenses occur because of the expenses we anticipate we're incurring, which could be insurance, medical insurance, or other expenses that apply specifically to the town. So that A fund is always going to creep up. It's always going to get
No,
larger.
I agree, and I think the DB fund should be creeping up too. My problem is that one's creeping up more than the other consistently year after year.
But are you suggesting that, is your real issue that literally that the amount you would just like that fund to be,
No, the percent,
Well-
my issue is the percent,
oh,
because I understand the taxes have to go up,
yeah.
right? What I don't like is the fact that the taxes are going up 17% for those of us in the village. And in this year, they're going down 1% for those outside the village. And that just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the ability to move money from the B fund to the highway.
And maybe that's what's, it's just,
We can reduce our expenses in the DB by moving funds from the DB to the, what is the other?
the B fund.
To the B
can
fund.
get to
B fund,
the
yeah.
So the
DB.
calculation then that goes into that sum total gets lessened because your corpus has now been lessened because we have the ability to move it. We don't have the ability to move A dollars to B dollars to reduce the A, which would lower the assessed value on the village.
Okay.
Yeah, we
But the
can't.
DB fund also has the ability to receive, interfund transfers
Yes,
that the A fund can't.
right,
And
from
the,
B fund, but not,
and the A fund also cannot receive, what's the other kind we have there? Oh, fund balance.
right.
But
We
you-
are using
But
fund
you're
balance.
able to use fund balance to affect the DB.
Only the DB is using some fund balance, and we're using fund balance from B fund to move it to highway as a revenue. It would be looked at as a revenue in
Okay,
highway.
which is an extension,
Yeah,
an
it's
expense
just-
reduction. yeah.
Yes,
And as you know, with any reserve funds, if you're moving funds, you can only move those funds to what you need to use it for, as defined by that reserve funds, unless it's an unrestricted fund. And the guidelines that we've received is some of our funds were a little bit too high, so we started moving dollars down to reduce some costs.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is that at the rate we're going in 5 years, village residents will be paying the same taxes as those outside the village. That's the path we're on.
So we need an answer on that. Why does that seem
Yeah.
to be the,
right, why does that seem to be?
the
Right,
progression?
right.
So we'll get an answer on that.
Okay. Other than that, all the things that I had as a problem last week in the trust fund, all those,
Okay,
I mean, including the new money for the fire.
but how long, when do we have to adopt the budget?
You have to send, yeah,
When?
tonight. We have to send it to, the county, I have to send it to the county on the 20th, by November 20th, so it's only a couple days.
I mean, I respect your questions, Tim, and
Yeah.
if we're calculating it as it should be calculated, then that's a very good question. Why is that creeping up? If the calculations are the same and we're following the dictates of the controller's office of where you can move dollars, how can we lessen that pressure on an entity within the town and give us some suggestions how to do that?
But the answer to that, Mike, is very straightforward. Reduce your budget increases in your A fund.
But you can't do that if you've got mandated expenses you have to follow.
Yeah.
Like,
Now that there's a list of
well,
things.
listen to what you just said, reduce expenses. So you tell me how we're gonna reduce the expenses on medical coverage for employees.
No, that's not a goal because you gotta fix things. There's a lot of other ones.
Exactly. So, and if you look at what our budget lines are, I don't think there's anything in any of our A-line budgets that are beyond a reasonable increase for what we need, whether it's improvements on buildings, improvements on the park or whatever. It's the nature of what's happening now all over the place. And we want to, as I think you want to too, try and stay under the cap. You start getting over the cap, then it affects your whole mathematics on the next year. So I agree with what you're saying. We need to get an answer.
Yeah, but just know that, and that's on this table too. The very bottom of the first page, it says there, the tax rate has gone up 4.7% from 24 to 25. That's an overall statement. See at the bottom of the page,
Mhm, mhm. 0.0475.
which is 4.75%.
Correct.
Right? And the way that's going up, the way you're covering that is by increasing the village residents' taxes 17%, while reducing those outside the village by 1%. And that's how you're going to do that. And be under your tax rate. And I'm just telling you, at a high level, that's not fair. All right?
I would say at a high level, you can use that term unfair. I think we need clarifications to be able to define, is it unfair? We need to find out if we're doing everything right and the numbers that we're plugging in are correct, and the numbers that we're plugging in are conservative against what we anticipated need for, and actually reject some of the numbers that we would have put in, we need to be told, then you need to not put in X, Y, Z. But if the community requires it, or the operation of the town requires it in order to keep the town going and providing the services that we're providing, then I don't know how you overcome that other than increase revenue, increase your assessment so that we're allowed or we're able to calculate
Sure.
a higher base. And that's a challenge. I agree with the question you're answering.
Those are options. right?
And I think we need to get clarification of, this is something that we're doing incorrectly, which I don't believe it is. It's just why for the village are those calculations kind of impacting them more than the rest of the town?
Not kind of, okay.
Well, I don't know. Yes, it is impacting the rest of the town. But you're asking us how to, you just stated, or reduce your expenses in your A fund.
Right.
I would like to hear from the controller's office. Are we overestimating the expenses in the A fund, which is causing that to impact the village? So I need to get that answer.
No,
So if we're putting in the correct numbers into the A fund, which is what we've debated and got input from our departments that are needed to keep the town going, and that is the A fund lines. And it's calculating out to where it is impacting the village higher than the town residents. Why is that happening?
because you're increasing the tax levy of the A fund, $200,000.
But
From last year.
but that's an anticipated,
No, that's a factual,
because the numbers that we put in required it to be that much.
well,
So my question is, you're saying reduce your A fund.
Is there
How
a
we
line
reduce
item
it?
in the A fund that it can be reduced?
Is there,
Is there?
is there an
Do we
item in
see
the A
one?
fund?
Do we?
You saw the
I'm
budget.
sorry, what?
Is there an item in the A fund that you feel is over forecasted?
I think there's a lot of items in there.
Like what?
Like what?
Like, I don't know, I don't want to go through the details of it now because
Maybe,
it's
There are some escalating costs we had no control over.
oh, there's things I don't really understand.
Well, that's why we have this open
There's
meeting.
a 15,000 increase in the groundskeeper, there's a $15,000 increase in the recreation assistant. 15,000 increase in the contractor expenses for the building. I don't know what those are. You know, so those are things that.
So
just-
some of those are recommendations from their management of that division
Yeah,
that suggest that they need more personnel or improvements on a structure or improvements on recreation
and are there others
facilities.
that have to be reduced to offset that?
But if you don't,
we can't.
if you don't improve the building,
Well, you guys gotta do what you gotta do. I
Yeah.
mean, all I'm saying is that's how imbalance occurs.
let me ask you an example. You just put concrete steps on the front of the village building. You're talking about replacing the windows or in need of windows. You're in need of a heating system. Are you putting those off to keep the taxes down?
No.
Or are you putting those
we're
off in
using
order
donated
not the
funds.
building to collapse?
No, we're using either donated funds from Tree Garden or.
That's a different revenue stream.
Foundations that we put into not in the budget. Those are non-budget items.
Go ahead.
The steps, the walkway going from Franklin up to Maple, the windows, none of those were budget items. All right. We
Correct.
got money elsewhere.
So you found revenue from other
That's right.
places.
We didn't do it until we found revenue from it.
So we have found revenue for other things like ACing and heating the building up the rec. That kept our expenses down, but there are still things that you're not going to give volunteers or people in the community to donate to keep the expenses down.
No, you shouldn't.
You get it maybe once, but then you have to keep it up as you move forward, and that requires more dollars.
Ongoing expenses should be funded by the taxpayer.
We just put a new roof on here. That has to be paid for. Creeping cost on medical expenses. That has to be paid for. Insurance costs on buildings. That has to be paid for. Those are all creeping costs that eventually will end up at a $200,000 level. That maybe a year, 2 years ago, wasn't a $200,000 level. So I think your question is legit. I think we need to get an answer. And how do we address those issues by also, number one, keep providing the services that the town residents deserve and expect, but also maintain the facilities of the town so that they are not so antiquated that down the road, there's going to be a tremendous increase because now you've got to replace a building or you got to tear something down. It's that rollout every 5-year kind of concept. So we will try and find the answer for you, but you raised a legitimate point.
Yeah.
But by saying it happened 6 years ago, I'm guessing it probably occurred 10 years ago. The question is now, why is that so? And we need to get an answer. And we'll get it for you. We'll get it for us.
Yeah.
Now, I think the answer for this year is not going to change the numbers.
No.
My request is, going forward, when you go through the line item detail, you know early on what that means in terms of the overall tax rate. Not wait till the end. Because
Unless we've been doing something wrong from day one that we don't know.
We always do that. Never until the end, until you get your assessed value and you get all your expenses and divide by 2, you're not going to know what your percentage is.
I think you know pretty well, if you look at what the total, if you go through the A fund, you know what the difference is between last year and this year?
But we just don't deal with the A fund.
No, but look at it in parts. Look at the A fund, look at the B fund, look at the DB fund,
Mhm.
and separate. And after each one, you should figure out what is that going to mean to the overall tax rate.
And I think we do that. When we do the A fund, when we look at the A funds year to year, we know it's going to be a creep up. We're just trying to keep it as low as a creep as possible.
Okay,
As far as cutting it back,
an 18% increase is not a creep, and that's a big jump.
you add in $200,000 on top of any number, that's going to be a big jump.
We'll try to find out for you, why does it seem to affect the village more than the outside the town?
Outside the town.
Yeah,
Outside the village.
yeah,
Outside the
that's what I
village,
mean.
And again, you do separate out the library, you separate out the
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah,
So we're talking about
yeah,
those things are within the A fund.
Right.
The DB fund's less than it was last,
yeah.
I know,
it's less than it was in 2016.
it's less than it was in 2016.
Correct.
Okay.
So we do look very hard.
Actually, that's all I would have to say, because I don't have to.
Yeah, no, and we agree. We'll try and get that answer for you. And I'd like to have the answer.
Mhm.
Just so, and I know, Tim, going back when even Mary was here, I think it was, you weren't Mary yet, and you sat in the audience and you asked the same question. And I think Mary gave a similar answer, but we never pursued it beyond
Well,
that.
what Mary actually told me, I don't know if it was that meeting or not, was the whole idea of the tax rate for the village being less than that of the town is village residents already pay village taxes for a lot of services.
Mhm.
And what the village residents pay for to the town is supposed to be those services that they don't get from the village. The town rec department, the town dump.
Town court.
The town hall, or the town park.
And
The
the court.
town court.
Yep.
Right. We have services we get from the clerk's office here that we can't get from the village. Licenses for marriages,
Mhm.
for
Correct.
Right.
hunting and
Yeah, all
whatever
that,
else.
all that
So
comes
there are
out. of-
services
Right.
that we get as village residents from the town, unique.
Right.
And in theory, those are supposed to be the things we're taxing.
I mean, even though you're making a really good point, the actual dollar amount that they're going up is not humongous. I mean, even on a $2 million house, it's only, let me quickly, I did it like $230 more than the village.
I know you're gonna say that argument too, Bob, that's not gonna go with my constituents.
No, I understand. Oh, no, I understand.
Okay,
I understand what you're saying. The percentages are correct.
let me tell you, the village taxes went up 1.1% this year. And I got phone calls about it. Okay? So they're very sensitive. Sometimes they just call because it's more than it was last year. And the residents in the village are gonna feel this 17% increase.
That tax you just quoted, though, does that include all the services that the village provides
Yeah.
to, including water?
Yeah, oh, no, water and sewer separate. That's a separate.
So what did water brought?
I forget, but it was in the range like 5%.
5%.
Still went up about 15%.
Right, it's gonna go up next few years.
Yeah.
And I
Thank
think,
you.
I think,
That's right, thank you.
I also have to, I think we have to be careful of making a statement that the people in my community are gonna be really upset. We have people in our own town community that are also upset that their taxes are going up, so
Your taxes aren't going up.
there's people in this community that their taxes are going up. If you look at the value of a house, the difference between what they paid
Well,
last year and
let's
this
say-
year.
Let's say on town taxes.
Right.
Your taxes are going up for the library, your taxes are going to go for the fire protection.
And the school district,
And, yeah, and for the county too, I
right?
think.
So we get it also. We get the question of why are taxes bundled, taxes going up.
But
That's
your
the
questions
question we get.
about the town taxes are going to be very easy compared to our questions about town taxes.
Understood?
I don't want to believe it, you understand what I want that? All right? And that's it,
All right,
all right?
thank you.
Public hearing is closed.
Not yet, not yet.
No, we're still,
Is there
at
enough-
at what point?
Is there anybody on the?
No.
The public hearing was open at 5 to 5:30, right?
5:30, yeah, so, or however long it needs to take. So, is there anybody else that has
Yeah,
questions?
there's nobody.
Otherwise, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right, thanks.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Is that somebody's hat?
Oh, I hear you.
Do we need a motion to open the regular meeting or we
Yes.
just go right into it?
Yeah, we're a little early, but I guess we can go ahead.
I don't think it
No, we scheduled the regular meeting for
Oh,
5:30.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Motion to open the meeting.
Regular meeting,
Regular meeting,
I'll make it.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Discuss the contract.
Okay. So a motion to adopt budget, 2025 budget,
I'll make that motion.
a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So next steps are what then? Lois, what's the next step?
I send post it on the website as adopted. And then I send our budget to Maggie Burns at the county. And they look it over. And then she sends me, what the tax levy sheet and whatever, but the next step is to mail it to Maggie Burns.
So
Would she be a resource to ask this
I have
question?
asked, I've asked her a couple questions. Sometimes she refers it to being a legal question, but not in this instance.
Yeah, let's ask her first, because
Yeah.
if we get on the state level, we'll get lost.
I was just wondering, like, if Maggie Burns looks it over,
Mhm.
has she ever come back with anything that, what's this all about, or?
Or just it.
No,
No, okay, all right,
just
okay,
last year, I think after we mailed it in, I'm not sure what happened, but the library, that we have to break it out now, because we used to hold that in the A fund.
Mhm.
And that has to be its own fund.
Own reserve fund?
No, just as.
Oh, just
soon as we
listed
get
as
the
its own fund.
levy, we give it
Similar
the-
to fire department.
Yes, it can't
There-
reside in that A fund.
There may be a way, I mean, you should ask Maggie, obviously, and she may have answers, and she may also have access to answers that she can get quickly. But I might also ask the state probably will give guidance on this, and I may be able to facilitate cutting through that
Good,
Mhm.
lost in paperwork.
Great.
Okay,
Like I have context there that.
Good.
I think it wouldn't be going to just some inbox somewhere.
Right.
Yeah,
Lost.
Good.
so if they could
Appreciate
make
that.
if they could give us that analysis in writing,
Yeah, like if you.
so that
could
we can give it to
Type out
her,
what the question is,
Yeah.
I think I can get it to the right people.
and if we give it to Lois, let's get a copy to Tim right away.
Yeah.
Yes, because I don't really understand how it affects them more when it's total A fund
Yeah,
Right.
encompasses the whole, you know,
but
town line.
but to tell us that we have to change our numbers because it doesn't suit their numbers, that's not right. We have to do what we have to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're very frugal on what we do as far as
Oh, no,
analysis
we're
of
more-
departments.
We're more than frugal.
And I think
We need
too,
someone-
sometimes we're too
Maybe
frugal.
the discussion should come up as far as, do we need a village or not?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I happen to
Seriously.
think that it's one of those unintended consequences of the whole structure of.
Oh,
the
right.
village.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yes.
It almost by its nature,
Yes.
it lends itself to double
And
taxation.
I have a funny
Yeah.
feeling
So
I've
it's-
heard
Well,
that
it is, because
response
Because your
And you
A
know-
fund, like I said,
Everybody at the
I
table
really think the heart,
Everybody except Mike lives in the village.
Yeah,
So it's not like, you know,
at the end of the day, the heart of Tim's comment seemed to me to be, bring your A fund down.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly.
I don't know what you do about that. There's only, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is, I'm sure you're not willy-nilly trying to raise your A fund, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And that's what I'd like to see in a response.
Yeah.
If that was clarified, specific to A fund, B funds, DB funds. And you're very right, it could be just the structure of the way that a village town is structured. Okay, great. Okay. Next item is,
Discuss contract with bad construction. Okay,
so
let's discuss bad
you were not-
construction.
you were not at the other meeting when we made a resolution to
Terminate the
terminate the
contract.
contract.
Right.
I didn't meet any of the deadlines and we're not responsive.
and
They
the
don't-
very
they-
little bit of work that they did appears to be pretty subpar.
They showed up and dug a hole.
so we instructed,
We hadn't seen them in 2 weeks.
so we instructed Danielle to go back and redraft a bid procedure. And that's what she's just handed out. So Danielle, want to give us a little
So this is
background?
the same proposal that you have, okayed before, it just has different dates on it.
Mhm.
But I did just get a notification from Ed stating that there could be a possibility from the county that it could be there could be a quick bid. So I still haven't heard from them on how that works. So that might mean, I guess, that these dates could change.
Yeah, I think you'd want to potentially, so the background of that inquiry is that Ed, our architect, thought it was possible that because of the circumstances of the way this played out, the fact that there's a timeline on the grant that's helping you do it, et cetera, and having to replace a contractor, there might be a way to expedite the bid process. And he was going to inquire at the county to see whether that was true. It sounds like 2 hours ago, he didn't have an answer. It sounds like he's got an answer now.
Mhm.
So Danielle and I will look at that answer, in more detail.
Yeah.
But either way, I think, as Danielle says, dates may change here, there may be, but I think you want to approve the substance of the bid.
You
know.
want a completion date, March 31st of 2025.
Or sooner, but yeah.
Does winter weather impact what they're able to do?
Probably.
Do you see what I mean? It's a very,
Yes.
it's a difficult time for,
Sidewalk and the parking space, no.
it's a sidewalk and parking. So,
Plumbing.
Well, we also have to take the whole, the trench for the water line,
But that doesn't really have to do with this, that's an extra.
Yeah, that's
that's
our,
an extra, yes.
that's, we're gonna do in-house. So you
Oh,
might
because-
you might wanna change that date to,
it's just, to me, I hope it doesn't impact how many people we want to bid for doing this
Oh,
kind of work
interesting. Yeah, right.
in the
If
winter
they feel
months,
like it's an unreasonable deadline.
yeah, it's an unheated building.
you know?
So they'd have to be working in a frigid, cold building to do the work.
You know?
Huh?
I mean, they can compensate, they can have their heaters and, like, they can do that. It's just, pouring concrete, et cetera.
Right,
Should it be like,
So your
frigid,
extension goes to December,
you know?
right? So yeah, I mean, going out to April is maybe not a terrible idea.
It wouldn't be a terrible idea. You know.
So can we approve this proposed bid now with the caveat of changing that date without having her have to recreate the bid and then bring it back to us?
Yeah, I would authorize changes to the date based on the
Conversation.
response that we get from
Right.
the county about expediting the process.
Mhm.
Good.
So I don't know if you know it or not, but I got a letter from Ed Lodi, he's looking for some money.
Well, first we gotta do this one, right?
What?
We gotta approve the bid.
Oh, okay.
So I'll make a motion to accept this
It's
proposed bid so that we can put it out to bid.
Yes, yes. yeah.
Based on the conversation that both our attorney and our director will have concerning an expedited bid process.
And you make it the end of April. That's the new date, right? Yeah, okay.
So I make that.
I'll second.
Second to that, all in favor of that?
All right.
Aye.
Right,
So he's looking for roughly $5,700 for the work that he's put in over and
no,
above.
no, he's got that,
27
that's been,
would be new, that
New.
new one was
no,
27.
2769. That's what he's looking for.
Oh, is it?
You want to explain that, Danielle?
The contractor's
You
looking for
explained it
that?
much better than I
And
did.
Ed Lodi.
Oh, that is.
Ed,
Oh,
Ed- within the initial bid, Ed had gotten approval for X amount of dollars. But because of the dissolution of the contract and towards the end, he had to do some extra work.
Yeah.
Contacting the county, that wasn't in the initial allocation of dollars that we approved to give him. So it looks like he's asking for 2,700 above
Right.
what he originally had been approved for.
2769.
Right, so that's what we're approving, the extra money, the 27, because you already got the other, right?
He already made 16.
Right.
Yeah, the 10%.
Does he say? I mean, those are the reasons? 'Cause he
It's
had
broken
made
out,
the
yes.
In the letter.
In the
No,
letter,
not
it
really.
says that.
It's not
Yeah, on the
really.
front, on the cover letter, it
Then
states.
He had to-
state
He had
how
to
many
do what?
hours.
He had to make a phone call?
No, read the front letter.
We're paying 20.
I'd be glad to call him and discuss it. Because he just sent it this afternoon, right?
Mhm.
Well, he knew the meeting was tonight.
Yeah,
And that would have to be converted into a voucher anyways, wouldn't it, Lois?
It's in the,
yeah, it is in there.
Oh, it is in there.
Yeah, I didn't enter it, but it's in there because it came in late.
Construction administration days, 2769.
so what he did for that, I could let you know, there was a lot of back and forth between Bad and Ed and his girl Beth and I mean, he did some extra work, there's no doubt
Yeah.
about it, whether it's $2,700.
What
I
extra
don't know.
work though? I mean, what
Well, he
His
had to-
professional work,
besides?
communication between the
there was
contractor.
a lot of time spent.
You speak with the lawyer?
Yeah, I think it basically amounts to chasing. He was chasing that and he was
Yeah.
talking to me on occasion about
Yeah.
what ought to be done and talking to you guys about it.
Mhm,
I think he was in favor of terminating the contract even earlier.
mhm.
Again, I can't speak to how reasonable the bill is, but yes, he did.
Right.
He did.
Okay.
I would be willing to speak to him about it and table that voucher till next month. Since it just came this afternoon and we didn't have much chance to
Okay.
discuss, it's up to you
It's fine,
guys.
no, it's fine.
No, yeah, that's fine. If you want to.
I'll be
Sure.
glad to do that,
Okay,
since he calls me on everything all the
all
time.
right.
I'll go sit down with him and arm wrestle.
Okay, Lois, these budget amendments, you want to go over them with us?
Sure. I don't know if Joe wanted to do the thing first, but I'll do it quick.
Okay.
So the county chargebacks, that we usually are about $900, were quite amount more last month. Because of the Rockefeller situation, Royce would probably know better than that. I didn't know what fund you wanted to take that from, and I think the only thing is fund balance. I don't see that there is any monies in any other line that won't be expended. So that's why my question mark is there. Is it all right if we take it from fund balance? I want to keep hitting fund balance, all the time, but I just don't really see where else it can be taken from.
Right.
And what were the chargebacks
It's,
for?
Lisa can probably explain it more than me, that it's for
Rockefeller didn't pay
Rockefeller,
their taxes for a while, right? Or their,
right. Or,
No, they weren't filing their exemption paperwork.
their
so-
exemption
Right.
taxes.
so it, and here's not my expertise again, but, the bill was significantly more from the county chargebacks. It's usually about $8,000 and it was
24.
20, yeah, almost 30, I can't remember off the head, but, that puts us in a.
I mean, is there any way that we can recoup that from Rockefeller?
So,
No?
I still don't understand it.
I don't really,
What don't you
Right.
understand?
I don't understand how can they could charge us back for,
the county
What are they-
charging us back.
Because we settled the litigation,
okay,
so that money now has to be paid back to them. Yeah.
The county?
I mean, I'm sorry, they don't pay the bill, so it's basically a write-off. The bill is written off. We sent the bill out, it's not being paid. Because we litigated it and settled it, and they don't have to pay it, because
Does this close the case on Rockefeller?
Yeah, it's
It
closed.
does. Okay.
So moving forward, they will be paying or no?
nope, they're gonna get their exemption as long
Oh,
as they file
that's right, to
paperwork.
get their exemption done, right?
As long as
so
they
the
file
county
paperwork.
is charging us county taxes that
We collected.
we didn't collect.
Yeah, we didn't collect.
We didn't.
But why should we pay them? Why don't they go up to Rockefeller?
No, because we. told them
I'm
they don't have to pay
confused.
it. Okay, because we told them they don't have to pay it. We gave the exemption to them.
So why does the county want us to pay it? Because we would have paid it?
So it's something that we would have paid to the county if we didn't tell them that they didn't have to get paid. So in other words, they want their money anyways. Even though we didn't get ours, they still want theirs.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
more or less it?
Well,
No, if they won the exemption thing, then we should tell the county they were exempt and they're still exempt. And we went through litigation and so,
But the way we finished the rent roll, they were not exempt, so it was on there as if they were gonna pay it.
oh, no, there's something wrong here.
No, it's
How-
not, it's correct.
Well, why would we pay taxes that the county says Rockefeller owns levied on us?
You're not paying
They're not paying it.
it.
I
You're
know.
not paying, we're not paying it, it's just that it's basically, it's uncollectible at this point.
Well, then
Right,
why?
but then we are paying it.
Then we are
Well,
paying.
yeah.
We're paying, we're
Well,
giving,
don't you guys create reserves for that? Because.
No, it
when
doesn't,
you-
no, it doesn't, never mind reserves.
No.
We're trying to figure out why are we paying?
Why are we paying it to the county?
does the county understand what's happening, that we're not
Of course, this
collecting?
happens with litigations all the time.
So they understand that we're not collecting, but they still do collect.
They
No,
collect
so
on our
they're
exemptions?
just getting. their
They're
exempt-
collecting on,
They didn't get their exemption, and now they're getting their exemption, so they don't owe the money, it washes the bill out.
Okay, so
So why
county
do we
should
have
not-
to pay it?
so then
We
if it
shouldn't owe the
washes the
county.
bill out, why are we paying the county out of,
Because
Extra
you
money.
have a shortfall now for what you need for the levy to cover the amount.
So the county anticipated a certain amount of money from the county, or the town,
Mhm.
because we did not honor, because they never put their paper in, we didn't honor Rockefeller, so we assessed them.
Mhm.
So the county anticipated this money in their rolls, but now,
Nobody anticipated it, the school didn't anticipate it either, and they ended up paying
but the county
$150,000, so.
assumed we were collecting it because we had started to, we told them we were gonna collect it, they refused to pay it.
Correct.
So
And
their
they sued us.
calculation is, we had this 24,000 on paper, but not in hand.
Mhm.
Now, and their book said they were anticipating the 24 when they built it into their budget. Now they want 24 from us to balance their budget.
Correct.
That's
Correct. But I understand the
Because they're
logic behind
saying-
that, Mike, but
But the adjudication then said, we made the mistake by not honoring it? Was that the resolution of it?
No,
No.
the resolution is that they never filed the paperwork.
Right, but the end result was, the judge said, they get it back, and you guys have to pay 24 back to the county. Right?
Right.
Yeah,
But
but
then we should go after
The county.
Rockefeller for the money. Because they didn't file their paperwork on time.
Yes, but that judge said, that's okay, that's wiped clean, you're not gonna get it from Rockefeller.
But
But the county cleaned it, the judge cleaned it, they're not responsible for 24,000 anymore.
but did the judge also rule that because they're not paying it, that we don't have to pay the county percentage of what we
No.
would have
No.
collected?
That's not part of the
That's not
adjudication.
Okay.
So the county is now saying, because you guys said you were gonna collect 24,000, we anticipated that 24,000. You need to give us 24,000. If you wanna go after Rockefeller and get the 24,000, good luck, but the judge says you're not gonna get it because they're tax exempt. So the county's saying we owe them $24,000.
Yes.
I would ask the question of the county, why?
Well, the school can't go to them and ask them for money either. School's on the hook for, a lot more than we are, so. So they.
But has the county ever justified to us why they were asking for the 24? Can we get
Yeah,
that
but the
answer
school's not collecting their money, but the county is collecting their money
from us?
from us.
Mhm.
The school is not gonna get any money, they're complaining, that's fine. We're complaining because we didn't get any taxes from them, but
The
yet
county's getting
the county
24.
is getting $24,000.
so Joe, just to fill you in, we have the
You were
Rockefeller
I
University.
heard the beginning.
Oh, okay. And now the county is looking for their tax money.
Yeah,
Right, because we settled the litigation, the lawsuit with Rockefeller, and we
Which is-
gave them back their exemption, and.
They
for our
collected no
town,
money.
Plus $20,000, so now we're,
yeah.
we're supposed to have reserves for stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we have reserves for the
Attorney's cost.
attorney's costs, but
That's
why
different.
would we have to pay the county tax on something that the judge says they're exempt?
It's tax exempt, yeah. Okay, I got the question. It's
I would ask the county
yeah,
clarification before we approve that
Yeah,
move.
we're gonna table that.
Because I think we already paid it.
Oh, well,
Every time, but you have to pay it. I mean, there's no negotiating.
Oh,
Yeah.
I question that. I question that.
Well, we can still go after them.
yeah, no, if it's
We can still ask.
right,
I mean, in
Like-
hindsight, if we had known that this litigation was gonna come up and we were gonna settle it, you would have collected in totality from the whole town, $20,000 more from everybody. Because everybody got a break by that $20,000 on their taxes.
okay,
You taxed everybody, the net roll, yeah, was adjusted for that break. Because we thought we were getting 20,000 from them. In the past years, when they got the exemption, that $20,000 was paid by everybody else in the pool, in the pie, as I explained.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah,
so is this not a Rockefeller, but it's a pool deficit that the county is
because
wondering?
we didn't have the taxpayers pay, they got a break of that 20,000, expecting Rockefeller to pay.
So,
The fact that they didn't pay, but how would we know that? We didn't know.
so
that
the
this-
taxpayers are not
litigation
getting
was
a
gonna come up.
rate because we are paying this 24,000.
And the justification is that, in legal fees, you're gonna end up spending more than the 20 grand if this goes to trial. And it probably would have, because Rockefeller was on the hook for about $200,000 total. So they were gonna fight this to the end. And, there was a lot of he said, she said, and Kyle Vandewater said. Oh, Barnett, sorry.
yeah,
Kyle.
right,
Not Vandewater.
Right.
Kyle Vandewater said, settle it.
yeah,
Because again, your part of it's 20 grand. It's a lot more
Well,
for the
maybe
school,
Joe-
the school's not
You could
willing,
look into
Yeah,
that
I'll
for
find,
us.
I'll find.
yeah, so
Uh,
Kyle should,
Kyle, get back
Kyle,
to you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kyle
if we
at your
paid
firm
it,
should
we
be able
paid
to
it.
explain that.
That's-
So do you still need an answer?
She needs to, if it was paid, she needs to know if she can take it from,
Well, you have to take it from the fund balance.
yes,
Take it from the fund balance, and if they give
Right,
it back
then
to
we'll
us,
put
we'll
it
stick it
back.
back in the fund balance.
yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
And then the next one we are not doing, we had spoke to the highway department before about, moving of these line items, and then I didn't realize I had left the 8,000 there. The one replacing this amendment is down below, like I
Yeah.
started. So we're not doing the second one. We will be
Mhm.
doing the one at the end of the page of the,
Okay.
Yep.
do you see what, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you guys might have it different, I'm sorry.
Mhm. Next one.
Okay. And then the next one is to, the use of ARPA funds, to cover the parking pool improvements, part of the initial, septic work.
Mhm.
Mhm,
So I just need an okay to use the ARPA funds that have been
mhm.
designated for the pool improvement. The next one is just the standard, so that I may adjust, the expenditure line for it's the paving of Peckham. The highway department, is requesting CHIPS money.
Mhm.
So I just need an okay to just be able to amend the budget to say that we're
Mhm.
receiving that, we're gonna be receiving that revenue
Mhm.
and to offset the expenditures.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like we overexpended.
Will that revenue come in after December or before?
December
in
16th.
December,
It'll come in when?
December 16th.
Good.
The usual.
yeah.
Good.
On or about.
Yeah, and then we're using, it's just the same thing, using the fund balance money to purchase, the new highway truck that we
Okay.
purchased. And then the next is just to amend the unexpected machinery, brush and weed expenses, to cover the over expenditures.
Oh, motion to approve that.
Make a motion.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, by the way, you see me looking at the phone, I'm taking notes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's how I talk to myself, so I remember to do stuff.
Right.
Joe, you want to give us your answer?
Sure. 82 and 44 is open, so I don't know that. Before this all started, when we realized what was gonna happen, which was the unintended detour on South Road, we started to investigate a couple of culverts there for their load ratings. Remarkably, I found one in a file that already had been done on that road. I talked to the engineers. They have since gone down and done the load rating, which I don't have yet, on another one of the culverts. Something we should be doing, maybe one road a year. Not necessarily to keep large trucks off of it, because this will all dispense and go back to the way it's normality. The big trucks will be using 44 and 82 now. They'll be off of these roads, but indeed, I am told that we're on the wrong side of any catastrophic collapse or injury to these culverts from these vehicles, which are on there all the time, as we are. Our vehicles are way more than these culverts are rated for. You're running over the culvert very quickly. It's not like you're gonna crash, it's gonna fall down or anything like this, but over the years, it does damage to them. What I'd like to do, and next year, I have money in the budget for another road. A lot of the roads that border state or county roads that could be used as bypasses, Bangor, Stanford, Valley Farm, our basically country roads that could be used as South Road was, a little bit more populated there, obviously. That we should look into, and a lot of our roads really don't even have some of these box culverts on them. For example, Cowan doesn't have one of our longest roads. But I'd like to, over the years, at least start to identify these. And I believe Joe can probably help us here. I believe that once you've identified the load rating on them, it either takes a local law or some sort of legislative act to put the signs up. And then when people get on that road, before they get on that road, they know that these load ratings are for such and such a time. Now, are they gonna go anyway? Yes. You know, will they think about it a little bit and maybe distract some of the traffic? Yes. We don't have any provisions for enforcement. Nobody's gonna sit there and catch a tractor trailer going across here. If they did, they could ticket them, okay? There's a lot of local construction going on these roads.
How do you determine the load rating?
Okay, so the engineers they actually take a physical inspection of these things by dates. They do some background checks. County has a list of these things. I'm not sure they have load ratings. I know they don't because I got the list. But one of the culverts, the one close to Tyrell, not the one on Tyrell, did have a load rating. And years ago, the superintendent of the schools asked that his drivers were afraid to go across it. So he asked the town to do this. And they did through an engineering firm, and I don't remember which one, but, and then it got filed. So I'm not sure if the word legislated it is correct, but
Yeah.
you never did, and you were never probably even told. Okay, well, I'm telling you, I found it. So, and we're gonna have one more on that.
Yeah.
So when we get to the point where both are done, I'll come back and I'll say, hey, here's the load ratings. Do you want to do this? Keep in mind that there are going to be, workers, construction efforts, even possibly, delivery trucks that are over these ratings. All right. So it's all about enforcement. If you got nasty, this is more to protect us from the next time that something like this happens, and it will over the course of years when they do a county road or a state road and unintentionally traffic ends up on our roads, we at least have that provision.
The signage.
Well, yeah, and the signage for it, yeah.
Or you could talk to the county and say the loads on this road would not allow it as a bypass.
Well, no, they would know. They would know when they did their research.
Right.
They would see the sign at the beginning of the road and they would know. Again, they did not detour anything onto our roads.
Nope. Word of mouth.
Just.
Oh, no, it's the obvious. There it is.
Wow,
Google
Google Maps shows them which
No,
way to go.
47 cars a half hour on South Road between 7:30 and 9 o'clock.
Well, same thing on
Plus
44A.
Plus-
call it.
10-wheelers, big 10-wheelers.
Anyway, so I'd like to do that in the next couple of years, get as many as we can done. And we'll budget for it each year. All right?
Sure.
Because of the state of emergency, we're no longer putting water on the dirt roads. We're just gonna have to live with that dust. We're supposed to get some rain next week, a couple days in a row. Hopefully that helps. If you get any calls, that's the reason we're not doing it. We installed a large 15-inch drain pipe on Jameson Hill and a catch basin. Sorely needed. It was flooding some areas. We're going to blacktop that road next year. And we also are going to be removing a large pipe on Milewood Road because of its age, and it seems like it sank down into the water. We're blowing leaves and getting trucks inspected. I'm a little late on that. And also serviced and ready for winter.
Are we geared up for salt?
We have a full thing, and we also have a much less per ton, which is why the budget came out. We're saving about $50,000 this year, anticipating our 2,400 ton. I mean, if we go over, we still get it at the same low price, but
Right.
so.
Because we didn't use as much last year.
No, I filled it,
Through the
I always
price
fill it
tag.
up at the price that I have that year, anticipating it's gonna go up. So I filled it. The reason that it's at a much lower price is because the county went out to bid again. And anytime they go out to bid, you get that low price for a year, and then it creeps up over the next couple of years and ends up back where it started. Which it did.
Did we want to talk about Killern?
What? Any questions about it, or,
Well, the final report came out, everybody knows that, but I don't know if everybody had a chance to skim through it.
I skimmed it.
The steps that were recommended by Colliers for us to take, the only one that we did not do yet is to determine funding for what we may propose to do with it.
number 3?
And
How much is it?
so.
I think the estimate was it 1.2
It's in there.
possibly?
Mhm,
I can't remember the estimate exactly, but keep in mind, those are probably high.
mhm. Yeah.
You know,
And-
these are DOT estimates, so they may not be.
I mean, they say drainage is a problem, like they recommend to start off with doing that.
Yeah,
If
and
they
the-
wanted to do it in steps, I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's also the STEP program.
Yeah.
But there's
So
tough,
just-
and then keep in mind, the drainage may not be able to be accommodated in some areas, and not because of the property owners, but just because it may cost too much.
Right,
There's a lot of rock on portions of that road, and-
Yeah.
and we'll just have to live with what we can't do.
so the only other possible glitch or concern would be, and if Joe, you're listening, the fact that it is designated a scenic road.
Yep.
And what we may or may not be able to do if it violates a scenic road law. Right?
Yeah,
So Joe, we're still looking into
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Okay. All
And
right,
that's, and that, the recommendation is to use the,
the mill
Milling.
and fill.
Oh, no, not necessarily. No, the topping, the final topping will be determined by the engineer.
Yeah.
No, I think what the idea about the scenic roads law is that, to my knowledge, and I'm not Joe, and I'm not the attorney, but if you read it, you have the right and the opportunity to present this to the planning board with yourselves, myself, and the planning board
Mhm.
acting in concert to review it. It's not whether or not, you can do it or not, you certainly can make this presentation.
Mhm.
And I would suggest that you use the engineers to do that.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay,
it's more of the process is just meant to ensure that you give the proper deference to the fact that it's a scenic road. and-
right,
Correct.
And do sort of the least intrusive and, you
Okay.
know, remedy that works for your purposes that you need, so.
so
yeah.
maybe the next step would be to put it on a planning board agenda, have Colliers come down and
And
present.
prepare something, a
and prepare a
presentation. Yeah.
Presentation,
Yeah,
so,
no.
okay,
That is the next step.
maybe
Once you-
let's see what we can do about that then, right? Maybe not December, but in the beginning of the year, is that good, Joe?
Yeah, whatever Joe says.
Yeah, that's good. And I'll,
Now Joe's in charge now.
and and that'll give me time to,
Sure.
in concert with that, I'll put together some kind of legal memo that helps them understand that they can do what we're.
Yeah. I'm sure they're probably abreast to it. I'm sure they probably have done this
Yeah.
before in other towns or, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's that with Killern so far.
Anything else?
they still making blacktop?
Yeah. Well, a little while longer. No, we're gonna do this.
Okay,
We gotta do a python, that we just did on, Jameson Hill. We have to do this and, we have to patch the road at the transfer station. So yes, that's planned for next week, when it rains.
yeah.
The only rain we're gonna get,
Okay.
all right?
Yes,
And
sir.
keep in mind, we have to dig this up, so we can't just.
I know.
Because it's only like this in some spots, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have to dig it up a little.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, Lisa, you want to give us your report?
Actually, I have a question relative to patching things. Is somebody gonna fix the driveway back here? Is some
think
kind
Yeah,
of-
that's what we just
That's
talked
what you were
about.
talking about? Oh, good. Yay. Okay, perfect. Good. You know, sometimes you hit it and it's,
Yeah, there's a couple spots.
yeah. Okay. All right, so.
See you,
Thanks,
Joe.
Joe. Thanks, Joe.
Yep, good night. We're in the pretty thick of working on the 2025 roll now. Exemption forms are all prepped. We have them in stacks upstairs to be mailed out. We do not mail them out till December. We mail them out too early. People lose them, so, but they're ready to go.
What do you mean people lose it?
They lose them, because people are not organized with their mail. If they get too early, like, they just push it to the side.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And, you know,
When do they do?
what's that? They push them to the side and.
When do they do the
It's lost in-
exemption for exemptions?
Oh, March 1st. Yeah, so December is usually when they're sent out. We usually send them the beginning of December. Sometimes they get staggered a bit, depends, but they're all ready to go, so they make it all go out at the same time. We actually are doing the village data collection in phases now. So we wrote up like a letter explaining, or not a letter, but informational sheet that explains to the property owners why we are at their property and what we're doing. So she's been handing those out and then going out like the following week and notifying them on these sheets when she's gonna be out in that area photographing. So she's trying to knock a lot of that out before it gets really cold. I put warm, but I meant cold weather. And then the winter time, focus more on the sketches. So, and I'm continuing on meetings with New York State because there's some analysis that they have done for this past roll year, 2024, that me and other people in our 316 group don't agree with. But, you know, we'll see. That's kind of an ongoing battle.
What
And our-
don't you agree with? Just ballpark
Well,
wise, like,
because, you know, with the equalization rate, last year they were saying we only went up 1% for our 316 group, which there's like 6 of us in that group. And this year they're saying we went up 7%. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Lisa, this 316 group, is that a geographical group or is it grouped by size of community?
Grouped by what they kind of like to think of as like towns.
So who would be a like town to us that's in that group?
We have Northeast, we have Amenia. I'm not saying I agree with this either. Yeah, Northeast, Amenia, Pine Plains, Milan, and
Unionville?
Clinton, no, not
Who
Unionville.
establishes that grouping? The state?
Kind of all the assessors with our New York State representative.
Okay.
We're the biggest group because we don't have as many sales.
So that's something that's approved by the tax officer, whatever you would call it, that oversees assessors?
Well, it's our New York State representative and us collectively decide on the group.
So it's not a fraternal group, it's something that's mandated by upper authorities.
Well, it's not mandated, it's only that we do it because our areas don't have enough sales. You know, so they group us so that we have enough sales to actually do the analysis.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I don't necessarily, I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but I think it actually hurts us,
So it's for analysis purposes that they group them that way.
sales analysis. right?
Okay.
But, you know, it's a lot of towns and I don't agree that we're like some of the others, but
So it's not like the supervisors organization that meets monthly. This is more for calculation purposes.
correct. Yeah, the New York State uses to calculate our increases every year.
Okay.
So it just, the trend doesn't make sense and they're like, well, last year was probably understated and now they're making up for it this year. And I'm like, well, yeah, so anyway, but we're trying to work that out and see if we can get that number down a bit so that it's more in line with some of the other towns. Because the other towns, the highest we have is like 4 or 5%. So they're like saying ours is higher than the others.
Is there a particular person that kind of is the spokesperson for that group that advocates for the group
Steve
With-
Hartnett is our,
Who?
Steve Hartnett is our representative.
And he represents what town?
No, he's the one, New York State representative.
Oh, he's assigned.
He's in charge of
Okay.
our county, yes.
What's his name?
Steve Hartnett. And he attends all of our meetings every month, Dutchess County Association.
And he comes out of Albany,
No, he is actually in White Plains.
White Plains.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Lisa, the exemptions, just if you could give us a rough idea. There was I guess when we hired you, there was a ton of exemptions that should not have.
Yes, there were many,
And do you,
all
like,
over from agriculture to
roughly how many?
seniors.
like, just a ballpark number?
I can ask Kathy. It was not over just one year. It's been ongoing every year that we find more and more as we've been trying to clean the files up.
So how many
I
total
would say-
exemptions do we have roughly?
Well, for agriculture alone, we have about 250,
Out of 2082, 250 are ag exempts?
at least. I think there might even be more than that actually now.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know. I
So
don't
we're
think
still finding exemptions that shouldn't be.
I think we have it pretty tight at this point. Yeah, I do. The last year, the last one that Kathy and I worked on was the Fisher Forestry. Because that's kind of been there on the sideline and nobody had really gone through those. And so her and I both went through those and.
And by
actually-
tightening up, you mean now they adhere to providing the information to prove that they are.
Correct, but some of them weren't being handled correctly in the past, so we took
Or
them.
being handled where?
They weren't being handled correctly. Or
They
weren't
didn't
being looked
deserve
at.
an
They were just
exemption.
They didn't
being
deserve
given
it,
an
right? Because they didn't
exemption.
meet the criteria.
Right, because they didn't, right, correct. And some of it, was that things were not being calculated correctly, so it was a hodgepodge of,
But now you feel that's all tightened up.
yes,
Thank you.
So the house on North Babbittsville Road that was demolished, are you familiar with that?
unfortunately, yes.
You are, yes,
Yes.
unfortunately. So they have a permit to build a new one? Is that, do we know?
I would assume they are, I mean, that's pretty much exactly what they did to the property just to the south of that. They
Yeah.
Demolished it and pretty much built the same thing.
Same thing,
I have not seen a rendering of what they're planning to do.
yeah.
Johnson may know.
Johnson, yeah.
Is that the big one?
Yeah. What happens in that case, Lisa? Did we just lower the exemption?
I will have
the
to
amount?
lower it, yes, I will probably have to lower
Yeah,
it.
just the
based on the
property
demo
exemption.
permit.
Yeah,
And usually, they'll start on the new house, so I have a little bit of value already on there, but in this case, this will be ongoing probably 3 years.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a big project, I would imagine.
well, they didn't leveling a $19 million house.
I mean, a house could take a year to build.
Well, there's a lot of
Definitely.
land value in that too, it's not just
Yeah,
improvements. And there's a lot of other improvements still on that property, it's just the main house they took
Yeah.
down.
It happens all the time now in communities. That's the way they do it.
Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
not, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say to that scale, they take them down in this area, but it's
That's-
by far the biggest
That
one
was a shock.
and the nicest one
Right.
that I've seen demoed around here
Yeah.
since I've been around. so.
Exactly. That
So
was a-
imagine what they have in mind.
Yeah, right.
Maybe go put a little cottage up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a tax break. They're gonna back up.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, right.
Anything else?
That's it,
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome.
Danielle and Matt, you want to combine it or are they separate?
Matt, you want to go first? Okay, mine's pretty small. Soccer ended this past Saturday. Thank you to all that was involved, and again, thank you to Chevy for the donation.
Mhm.
The Christmas Spectacular bus ride is this weekend, and we purchased 45 tickets, and 45 tickets were sold, so
Oh,
How many tickets?
Nice.
45.
45.
That's a great innovative idea this year.
It's this weekend?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah,
The
already.
Rockets
Anybody
started last week
Man,
Sure.
and the tree's up but not decorated.
jeez.
Gingerbread night is December 13th. We originally wanted to have that at the building, at the pool. We now have to move it back to the firehouse that was on the back burner. I asked Matt to hold it for us for that night, and he was good enough to do that, so I just put out an email blast telling everybody that it would be at the firehouse as usual, but the Festival of Trees will still be there. Matt, though, has to put up fencing around the bad mess, so that nobody hurts themselves on that. That is December 14th. We have 10 trees total to be decorated, and we have 8 people that want to decorate them, so we have 2 more left. Vanderwater can do one, Debbie can do one. Basketball registration is officially closed. We're at 87 registrants, and that is more than last year because people found out about Duchess Day, and I think they're really pleased with that, so.
That's
Great.
Yeah,
That's very
When does
good.
that start, Daniel?
January 3rd.
January 3rd.
Wow.
Yeah, they love the facility.
Yeah,
And we need to thank daycare, or Dutchess Day for allowing us, Matt, it's been very good up there.
Hmm. Is that it? Oh, Daniel? Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
The water at the town park is off. I winterized all the toilets and sinks. The septic update, they had to take more soil samples. At some point, they might have to install a backup field if you want to expand the system. So I'm waiting to hear back from the Board of Health on that. And I'll get a price on that afterwards. And then working on the, as part of our with BAD, we had to redo the bathroom at the camp building. I have pretty much, besides paint, have updated it to all ADA requirements. New fixtures, Mike Schultz put in new lights, a hand dryer. I put a new swinging door, new trims, new RFP board.
This was something that was supposed to do?
no,
No.
The grant asked us to do some in-house
Oh.
of our own, and that is taken care
and
of.
I gotta tell you, if you wanna take a ride up and take a look at that bathroom,
It's nice.
it's
It's,
fantastic.
Much
What
better.
a great job, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic job. He made some changes that didn't have to be done to make it nice.
That's my report.
Good.
Danielle, you may want to comment on your Halloween event.
oh yeah, we had
Matt, is the truck,
probably
Matt, is the truck doing okay?
Yes, actually, tomorrow I'm getting the undercoating on it.
Are you good?
Just to add to that, there is a check that I made out for the
Voucher?
undercoating and the voucher. He's going to take the check.
Oh, it's in here?
Yeah,
You wanna find it now and we'll just. do
yeah,
it?
it's gonna be right on top of the
it's right
baseball.
underneath the meeting voucher.
In the blue file.
This,
Of the top, should be on the top.
So Danielle, the
We will
Halloween,
give them the check after it's undercoated.
I'm trying to give you some props.
So the Halloween trunk or treating that we had approximately 50 people at. Even Chrissy's son was one of the trunks that we're treating. So,
Nice.
year. It's very exciting.
How did the candy distribution that was donated go
Oh
with
my
the town?
gosh, we had much more than we did last year.
Good,
Good.
great.
It was really nice that everybody donated.
And we don't get names of the people that donate, right, so we can thank them, just general thank you on our website.
Right.
I know you had big wagon fulls.
I've never seen so much candy here. The collection this year.
Yeah, that was
Fabulous.
incredible.
Well, now the kids in the community are all diabetic.
The dentists are happy.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what I did.
Too many papers.
what?
What are you doing?
Their candy, they lay it all.
I'll look for yours. But yeah, you can have mine.
I like how organized they are with their
Oh,
candy.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Matt, for the report. So Jonathan couldn't be here, he couldn't get a babysitter, so I have his report in case you didn't see it online.
Yes.
Did everybody see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're good.
Mhm.
Lois,
Bank reconciliations have been completed through September. Have to be worked begin working on the October bank recs, but everything looks good. As usual, I've provided you with the bank balances. Transfer station invoicing and receipts are posted. The monthly revenue from the Justice Court has been received through October, as well as the October building departments, and the town clerk. So, the court seems to be coming in a more timely manner. So that's great. Obviously, all through October, I've been working on the budget. And the New York State and federal tax payroll returns have been submitted. I have begun familiarizing myself with the ELB county reimbursement software, which is where we will have to submit our requests for reimbursement for the Oak Summit culvert project. So they have their own system,
Yeah.
online system that I
Yeah.
log into.
Yeah.
I tried to do it a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't completely set up on their end. I haven't, I've looked at it a little bit, and next week I'll start working on it. And there were just a couple initial reimbursements we can request. It wasn't, a lot of funding, so. We went through the budget amendments, and then I will supply the supervisor's report, which I usually include in my report, only because I have not, I like to just make sure that the revenue looks right, and I know there's interest I have to post from October. So when I get that posted,
Okay,
I will give you that supervisor's report.
awesome.
I've been very busy. I know this is a short report.
It's all
so
right.
Lois, please.
I'm
It's all right.
glad
We
budget
know
time is
what you
over.
were up to.
Is
So
there,
that- oh, I'm sorry, Karen.
no, is there any update on that Oak Summit Canby Road thing?
And what do you mean by,
Where does it stand?
Like, okay, I can give the update to
Okay.
that. So, Dan at Colliers is coming up with different scenarios for us to choose from, because he has a recommendation, but he has to come up with different according to DOT regulation, whether we do it this way, this way, this way, this way, and then the board will choose which one. But he also has a recommendation, but again, he has to submit 4 separate scenarios. He's due to have that any minute because I actually expected it kind of sort of last month, but nevertheless, and I've been following up, Dan has this going. So hopefully by next month, we'll have a scenario and then we can move it forward in, the direction of where we want to go with this. But because what was it? It was hopefully bid in by May, if we remember from the meeting, and then we have 2 years after the bid, that we can get it complete. But I wanted to ask you, Lois, you said you had reimbursements that you can submit.
yes.
So I'm kind of curious at how swift they're going to be
Okay,
coming back. So,
right.
do you know what I mean?
I anticipate a couple of months, but
Yeah.
the expenditures were not, I honestly, I don't really know. Maybe if you.
No, you don't have to answer that. I'm curious
Was it?
after
Yeah.
you do it. I'm
How,
just curious how
what
it's
the
gonna go.
turnaround. is.
Yeah. All right, that's
So,
yeah.
Chrissy, you have the floor.
Okay, so in the town clerk's office this month, we did 5 marriage licenses, 18 hunting licenses, 1 death certificate. The checks that we have to send to Albany from the town clerk's office have been sent. And the town clerk's report has been submitted to the bookkeeper and the supervisor. Also, Erin Fox, who is our web coordinator, she's updating the website from about 2021 to 2023 and filling in, looking for what we're missing to fill in, update. So we have everything on the website that is required. And I took a class to become a notary, so I've just got to get up to Albany to take my test. I have 2 years.
Awesome.
I'm hoping to do it
That
next
always
week.
helps the office. That's
Yeah.
good.
Also taking a tax collector training program in December, which will be perfect for the upcoming tax season. And I've also been working a lot with Mamadou Barry, who is our risk assessment auditor from the New York State
Mhm.
Controller's Office. So
Yeah.
it's been taking up a lot of.
Right, imagine.
Just
Did you say how long he's gonna be here?
Yeah.
Maybe another year?
He's very nice and very vague.
Yeah.
He's told me probably for the past 2 weeks that I have to bring his supervisor in, and he hasn't yet. And every day I'm like peeking in the window. He's got, and she's been here before. Again, she's very nice, but
Mhm.
vague in when this is gonna end, but what the things they're requesting from us are sometimes a lot.
Yeah, I
They
think it's
go
been
back-
cumbersome.
Yeah,
However, we were under the impression it was just going to be a quick review, and then they would send a letter to Albany and get a recommendation back. But I think once they got into it, this basically probably ends up being a benefit to us because they would have ended up coming down and doing a full audit anyways. So now that he's here, once it's done, it should be done.
I would think.
Maybe just likes it.
He lives nearby.
Yeah.
Okay, Chrissy, thank you. Mike,
Time clock implementation update. Matt helped us mount the software register clock on the wall outside the main office, which is what the SWIPE cards will be used for. Lois, over the last several months, was doing an internal practice test with select employees to get it done. We needed it on the outside, so we needed access to electricity. An electrician we had spoken with delayed in coming, so Matt went ahead and helped hook that up for us. So right now, if Lois has an idea of when you would like to start it, we would like to start at the beginning of a pay period and parallel it with the current way of doing the pay period so that we can parallel, see if there's any glitches with the new system, but still maintain a backup in case there is a glitch. And then once we prove it's okay,
Good idea.
reduce it. Prior to implementation, though, we would like to hold a meeting of the employees that are going to be affected, give out their cards, talk about policies and procedures and how to use it, and then move forward with it. So as soon as we settle on a date, and with all that's been going on, it's kind of been pushed off. So it's not an emergency. We get it done right away. But as soon as we're clear to start it, Bobby and I will hold a meeting with the employees and then we'll go forward with it. But so far, it looks like it was okay. The biggest problem was trying to get it to be mobile.
Yeah, instead of wired into the network to be wireless. And when Edwin was here a couple weeks ago, now maybe, he got it to work. I have no idea of how. One little line item on the time clock in the settings he found. So it works wirelessly.
So people offsite can use it through their phones. And there's designated people that will have it through their phones. The rest will use the card to get in and out of the building.
Danielle has even been trying it from her phone as well, just to, It is a little finicky if you don't check out right, whatever, but I do have the ability to go in if someone tells me, I didn't check out, or take a, clock out properly as a break or whatever, because it knows you're going on a break during the day, a lunch break.
okay.
But so there's, just things to work through, but
Lois, are we gonna do that for Kim?
So we'll walk it
I
through
don't
when we're
I
ready.
think so. You would have to have one up there.
Why we couldn't do it on phones?
I don't know if you want everybody to have the ability to have it on their.
The only people on the phone are people off-site, like you, and your assistant, and Matt.
The other one work okay? Let me set up or no?
Yeah, but I didn't know if she wanted reports, like what she can do now.
I don't know. How do you, unless you, I don't know, how do you know that they're actually physically there?
So there'll only be certain people designated off their phones because they start their day at an off-site.
And the one that we used in my previous job, you could only, it was like you had to be so many
There's like geofences.
And this doesn't affect your summer employees at all. You'll go by your time clock system that you already have. So,
But yeah, you can set it's called geofencing, so if somebody uses this on it, that you have to be in a certain boundary that you have set.
plus there's fail safes to get into the systems and stuff. You're gonna have a code that allows you to get in and out.
I've tried the fingerprint. It's very temperamental.
Right. So I
So
think
the card is
we'll go with
actually
codes.
the best bet.
That what
Yeah.
happened today, ultimately.
There is internet at Park now.
There is internet at the
Okay.
park, people.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
So I
Your
had-
phone
I
won't
had a
work,
hard
but you
time
got
punching
internet.
it in and out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing.
So town clerk update, or town court update, in October, there were 20 charges that came through court. And the financial report we received as of October, in October, we received $9,151.65. And the brings it to $34,882 brought in through the court gross in year-to-date.
How much of that goes to the village, and we know?
The breakdown,
Village has hardly any.
the village hardly got any, in August, the state got out of $4,696 collected gross. The state got 2,134. The county got nothing, the village got nothing, and we got 2,562.98. So it depends on what the charge is, who's making the charge,
Right.
and then the adjudication by the judge. Ethics Committee update. As I think I reported, Pam Scott, who is the chairman of the Ethics Committee, notified me 2 months ago that she would be stepping aside from the Ethics Committee, not only as chair, but also as a member, and concentrating on her other positions within the town. I think it's CAC and planning or one of them.
CAC.
However, looking at the state law that governs the Ethics Committee, there is a sub-law that says at least one member of the Ethics Committee must be either a town employee or serve on an existing committee within the town. She served that purpose because she did both. No one else on the current committee was able to fulfill that requirement, which left a gap. So I asked for a list of current committee members, did some research, and recommended that Richard Phillips spoke with Pam. Pam screened him, and Pam is comfortable with us possibly recommending him. I still have to meet with Richard now that I met with him once. He's now spoken to Pam. I'll come back and meet with him again and then probably make that recommendation next meeting. And then he would be sworn in January. And then we would still have a full contingent on the ethics committee.
Good.
Okay. And that's it for me. The other information we'll talk about in session.
Okay. Bob.
You don't need me anymore. Matt, taking care of everything.
Yeah.
Buildings and ground.
Yeah.
Anyway, the roof is done. I would like to give a shout out to Matt and especially Jonathan for overseeing the whole job. I'm not going up on any roofs. And Jonathan did a great job. He coordinated everything with the management for the roof, and it got done quickly and no big issues. I have not yet met with the fire department about the emergency use of the fire department for emergency preparedness thing, but I'll try to do that in the next few weeks. And I think the buildings, the furnace is done, right, Matt? They're all
Yes.
serviced for the winter. Matt's working on the weeds, and the leaves are finally falling off the trees here. So we'll get those done, I'm sure. And Matt says every time he comes early to whack the weeds on the fence back there, somebody drives right in while he's working and parks right in front of the fence. He says people just don't, they just, so Matt will get that.
I'll take care of it on Saturday.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have much more to report.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
I'll get a hold of Lodi and talk to him about that.
Joe?
I was gonna ask Jonathan if he was here, if he knew anything about that sign that's at the corner of, the what?
There's a new public sign at the
There's a
corner
new-
of, at the traffic light, the red brick house
Oh, God.
has put up a sign that's kind of
It's
aggressive.
historical.
It's kind of aggressive.
Show it to us.
It's fun.
So it's probably pointed at me.
It's pointed at.
I went with Jonathan and inspected the property. The owner of the property, not the
Here's the
owner,
sign.
but the renter was not there. His significant other was there, and she took us around the property and said that she was being prosecuted, persecuted, because
Harassing.
we weren't harassing her. So we were very nice to her. I do take
Wow.
pictures of the property from across the road once in a while and send them to the owner who lives in Palm Springs, Florida. And he was supposed to get rid of his chickens, or he was gonna get evicted by the owner. That was several months ago. The chickens are still running around. He put a sign up saying, I don't know what it says, but I forget what it says.
I think that Jonathan needs to be aware of it. And also, I think we ought to notify our local police department just to be alerted that
Yeah.
Bob, you
There
can get
is-
hurt.
there is kind of an
I-
aggressive.
I do not
aggressive sign on
trespass, I
property.
do not go on his property. I simply, and he has my phone number, he knows my name, he has emailed me before, but nothing derogatory. So if he thinks it's me, he should have, should
Yeah.
have called me.
And perhaps Jonathan should also forward that photo of that or a picture of that sign down to the owner of the property. in
I will do
Florida.
that in the morning.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good idea.
So we talked about Killer and we talked about, Oak Summit. So we solicited for new members for ZBA, right?
Yes.
Okay, but nobody's answered that.
No.
Nobody's come forward to want to, okay, so
How many vacancies?
we need one permanent, and one alternate.
Alternate?
So we should ask around and
So
see
we
if we
should-
can.
We should
Start recruiting?
start recruiting. So the last ZBA meeting was held on October 15th. The item on the agenda was, once again, the ongoing yard guard application for a swimming pool at 610 Stanford Road. Josh Mackey, the attorney for the yard guards, gave a summation of the application. He reminded everyone that the current application is 25 months old. The applicant is seeking rear and side yard setback variances. A motion was made at 6:42 to open a public hearing. A court stenographer was present, taking minutes. Letters were submitted ahead by Cornell lawyer Alan Rapplier and another neighbor who are against the application. The Cornell lawyer Alan Rapplier then spoke on their behalf, Jim and Lee Cornells, who are neighbors to the yard guard, on behalf against the application. ZBA attorney asked if stenographer could be part of the record, the transcript, and there were no objections to that. Jim Cornell spoke against application. Josh Mackey responded to Alan's comments. Alan then responded to Josh's response. So there was a back and forth with the opposing lawyers. There were no comments from the board. The board will discuss comments and concerns brought up with the ZBA attorney. So motion was made to adjourn to November 19th meeting. The board has 62 days to vote on matter after the public hearing is closed. And that's it. Once again, the ongoing.
Yeah.
You support people, so.
That looks like that pretty much does it for the regular meeting. Anybody have anything? Howard, do you have any questions?
That's sort of something that you all know about anyway. We don't, CAC don't have a lid on it at the moment. And I was wondering, we're all wondering, when is that going to get resolved? Do you know?
No. We have to fill a vacancy on the board, on our board.
Yes.
So once we do that, we have a couple of things that we need to kind of move around a little bit. So as soon as that happens, then we will have a liaison.
Okay, this is a sort of a leading question. Any idea when that's going to happen?
Actually, no.
Not really
No.
a definitive date, but it is going to be discussed tonight.
That's what I.
And I meant to. go
That's
to
why
the
we're going
planning
into
board
executive session.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
What was that, Howard?
That's what I was assuming you were doing.
Going
Oh,
into
yeah, yeah.
executive session to
Yeah.
discuss that.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, no, we have to fill that vacancy. We have other issues,
Other things as well, but.
Right. yeah. So if there's nothing else, we need to close a regular meeting and then go into executive session.
Well, don't
No,
close the meeting.
you go to
Do the
executive session first.
Then come out and close.
Right,
You don't have to close a regular meeting?
Yeah, no, you're,
it's part of.
because it's still part of the meeting, you're just going into executive session.
Move that we go into executive session.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Question then, if you take any action, plan on any action after.
Other than bills, we will be signing bills.
By the way, how many cars have you count on South Road in an hour?
Thank you.
About 47 going both ways,
So,
plus trucks.
I think it was more than that.
No, that was
I
just,
counted over well in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
that was just